spark is all I need.
Hey guys, so we get an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're finally here with the Zeri complete guide. Now Zeri is of course a very unique and very fun champion. She of course has that auto attack that you have to kind of manually aim, and she's also really low range. She's incredibly weak in the early game, like probably the weakest ADC in the early game. I think she's weaker than Vayne, weaker than any other ADC. I think she's probably the weakest ADC in the entire game. However, she scales incredibly well, probably one of the best scaling ADCs in the game. I'm not sure like Zeri versus like Vayne or something like that, or like Tristana, like who scales better, but you know, she's basically all the way up there. She's really strong in the late game. When you get to like 3 items or so is when you really come online and you become incredibly powerful. And of course, at this current stage, she's the latest champion, just released about a week or so ago. How strong do I think she is? Now, honestly, I don't quite think she's in the S plus tier. I think she's probably like more like in the S tier, and the reason why I think that's the case is because her early game is really kind of just really bad. Like, she's very abusable in the early game, and like if that's the case, you cannot really put someone that high up. And for her to really be insane, she has to get incredibly fed. Like, for her to have those kind of 1v9 performances, she has to be incredibly fed for that to happen. If she's behind or like even, she doesn't really do all that much. And of course, if she's ahead, that's a different story altogether. But in general, I think she's very strong if you can play her properly, and if you can get past her weak early game and get into the mid and late stages of the game. So with all that out of the way, we're going to actually jump into the practice tool and talk about her skills and leveling order. Because of course, Zeri is a completely new champion that we are going to have to cover that with. Okay, so here we are in the practice tool going through her skills and leveling order. So the first thing, oops, I accidentally put an enemy dummy there, did not mean to do that. What I meant to do is disable the bot. Anyways, so first up, what you want to do is at level 1. Now this is kind of a debate about what you should take level 1. Personally, I think Q is the best to take at level 1 because you can easily just poke someone with your Q at level 1. And then at level 2, I personally like to take E because I can dash forward or back. And then I like to take W at level 3. But personally, between your Q, E, and W, honestly, I think it's kind of personal preference what you think is better. Like, some people like to take W level 1 to poke with the W. You probably don't want to take E level 1 though. Then level 2 and 3 is kind of like, you kind of can choose, mix and match like what kind of level 2 and 3 abilities you want to take. And then of course you go for your Q max first, take your ult whenever available. And of course after that you want to take your E max. And then you of course max out when available, and then you max W last. Okay, so now let's get over to the normal place, the river, where we can go through what her skills and abilities does. So now first up, we're going to talk about her passive. And her passive is honestly kind of impossible to demonstrate in the practice tool, but what her passive basically does is when an enemy has a shield, you're going to absorb some of that shield. So I'm going to show you guys the passive here. Zeri shields herself for 60% of the damage she deals to shields, and she gains 15% movement speed for 3 seconds when shielded. Now that movement speed does scale up. It starts at 10% when you're at level 1, so take note of that. And yeah, basically that's what it does. So I wouldn't say she counters shield because it's not like she has a built-in Serpent's Fang. She doesn't reduce shield amounts, but what she can do is basically steal the shield and give herself extra movement speed, which is, you know, pretty amazing. Now we're gonna talk about her auto attacks. Now what do her auto attacks do? Basically, you can see that you basically have to manually aim your auto attacks like that. Like, you have to actually choose where you want to aim your auto attacks. Now there's 2 ways to do this, because you're gonna have to move when you do it. So first way of doing it is like you move, and as you move you like aim once, aim twice, like let go basically as you're aiming like that. Or the second way is as you're moving you basically just keep on aiming, like you never let go of the aim button basically, like you keep on just dragging like that. Personally, I think between methods 1 and 2 it's a bit of personal preference on which one you think is better. And The third way is the noob's way, which is basically just to tap it and it's gonna kind of attack whoever is what the computer chose, basically. So there is a way to sort of make things easier for you. So honestly, choosing the auto-targeting function is generally recommended because the auto-targeting function is pretty good. For example, here if I want to target the plant instead of these people, I can actually just press the plant button and it will automatically attack the plant, as you guys can see there. And same goes for like the dragon button. And here we also have, like, for example, if we're in the lane, and here we have like minions and a tower. Here if we press the tower button, it's gonna attack the tower. If we press the minion button, it's gonna try to attack the minion, and yeah. And if you just press the attack button normally, it's gonna try to attack a champion. So generally what you wanna do is you wanna just use the auto-targeting system. However, this changes when you're in a team fight. So for example, if I'm in a team fight and I have like two dummies here, let's say the targeting system wants me to target this guy, but I wanna attack the ADC that's behind, so that's when you wanna manually target. So you sort of have to get good at manually targeting Zeri's auto attacks. If not, it's not gonna be too good for her. Okay, so that's what her auto attacks do. Next up is her Q. So her Q, as you guys can see, is this like AoE area, where basically what it does is it just does AoE damage and it slows whoever it hits. So like that boom, they both took AP damage and they both got slowed. So if I miss the second guy, it can attack this one guy only. So that also works. Another part of her passive, on her Q that is, her passive on her Q is that she can only reach a maximum of 1.5 attacks per second, and 60% of attack speed in access is converted into bonus attack damage. So basically, if you stack a lot of attack speed items, there isn't really a point. So next up is her W. So her W is basically like a long range Jinx W like that. So you can see, boom, you hit your W like that. And there is another way to use a W, which is basically, you guys can see here, if we use it through a wall like that, it's gonna basically become like a Lux Laser, like that. So when it becomes the Lux Laser, it's gonna automatically crit against everything that it hits like that. Boom, it's gonna automatically crit. And if the tip of your ability hits, or anywhere it hits, it's gonna extend the range. So for example, you see here, if I hit like this, it's gonna go all the way till there. So from here, I can actually blast like into kind of like into mid lane. Of course, like from here, I can like blast into the dragon pit, for example. So that is something you can do. So now, what does her E do? Now, in case, alright, I actually forgot to mention this on her auto attacks, but you can only hit the target in front of you. So for example, if I'm trying to hit this guy behind, I can't actually hit him. I can only hit this guy. So this means that you can get blocked by minions. So for example, if I'm trying to attack this caster minion over here, this guy, but this guy is blocking me, I cannot attack him. So you guys can see that is going to be a significant problem. But basically what your E does is it allows you to pierce. So for example, if I E this way, I can attack both of these guys at the same time for my next 3 attacks. Without my E, I cannot do that. Now what else can your E do? This is the really cool part. Basically you can jump over walls. So if you guys look over here, I can jump over this wall with my E. And then you can get insane ranges with this. So for example, over here, if you get the correct angle, you can actually jump like all the way across the dragon pit, something like that. And if you get the correct angle here, you can actually jump all the way, like boom, all the way over here. Of course, you can go in the opposite direction as well. So this can lead to some like insane escapes. Like for example, if you're here, getting chased down by an enemy, you can just zip all the way across over to here. Now the main issue is that it's a little bit hard to target. So what do I mean by that? Basically, for example, if I'm here, I can end up landing up at the wrong spot. I can end up landing up here when I want it to go all the way over there, for example. So basically, you just gotta kind of get used to targeting. One of the really hard areas to target is actually the blue buff like wall here. Because for example, if you want to go all the way past, like all the way to there, because of this like angle at this spot that I'm standing, sometimes you're gonna end up like, instead of going all the way over there, you're gonna end up like going like somewhere like here, like not all the way that, where you want to be. Or for example, you're gonna even worse end up here. And that's kind of not really good, of course. Now the only way to prevent this is to sort of get good at using this ability, just through practice. But it's kind of really hard. Like for example, if you're getting chased by someone at the dragon pit, for example, you don't have time to stand here and like sort of take a second to like manually target where you want to go. Sometimes you just gotta quickly like just use it and kind of hope for the best, I guess you could say. And now lastly is her ultimate. So basically with her ultimate, you gain AD, you gain attack speed, and you gain movement speed, and you let out this like blast in this area. So for example, in this area, whoever I blast, boom, is gonna take AP damage, and for every guy I blast, I get stacks. So every stack I get bonus movement speed. Now the stacks come from when you blast people, when you attack people, and when you cast any of your abilities against them. So here you can see, boom, 16 stacks because I hit 2 people. I attack, I get extra 17, 18, and here I'm gonna blast them 19, and here 20, like that. So every stack I gain, I get increased movement speed. So another thing I get is when you have your ultimate active, you're gonna get this like static shift kind of effect that you guys can see here. Boom, I'm attacking this one guy, but it's chaining to all of the other guys, doing like damage to them as well. So that's kind of what your ult gives you as well, that kind of chain effect, which helps you do more AoE damage. And that's basically it for her skills and leveling order. Now we can actually jump into talking about her build. Now Zeri has like 4 viable builds that I know of. I'm gonna cover all of them in future videos, but for me, I think her best build now is the crit build. Now there is a like black cleaver build, a on hit build, and also a AP build. Now I'm gonna cover all of those in separate videos, but for today we're gonna cover the crit build, which is what I believe to be her best build. Now aside from explaining this build itself, I'm also gonna cover 2 things: her last item option, and also why we don't have Storm Razor. So I'm gonna go over the pros and cons of Storm Razor and why I did not choose to build it. So for this build, I'm going for IE first item. Now normally I think IE first item sucks, but in this case it really doesn't matter because Zeri sucks in one item anyway. Even if you get Storm Razor here, you're still not gonna be doing too good. It's better than IE as a first item, but overall I'm gonna explain why we don't take Storm Razor later on. But of course IE gives you the AD, the crit, and the extra crit damage. Then we go over to Runan's Hurricane. Now Runan's Hurricane gives you 45% attack speed, which is basically gonna almost put you to the attack speed cap. And with the Lethal Tempo, you're gonna exceed the attack speed cap for Zeri, which is 1.5 of course. But the main reason you get this is because of your Wind's Fury. So you do get the attacks that strike 2 additional enemies, and this counts for the total damage of all of your bullets, not just one bullet. If not, that would be pretty useless. And this is critical because Zeri, as I said, is getting blocked by everybody. So with the Runans, you can actually hit a target who is behind that you want to hit. And then we have the Bloodthirster, which gives you the more AD, crit, and of course the physical vamp. And for the boots, you generally want to go for the Boots of Fury because Zeri is all about the movement speed. And you can choose between Stasis and QSS. I find myself veering towards QSS most of the time because with Zeri, it's really just about not getting CC'd and just zipping around the fight. And then we go for Maul Reminder for, of course, the penetration as well as the Grievous Wounds, and we top it off with a Navori Quick Blades. So Navori Quick Blades, of course, gives you more attack damage, more crit, ability haste, and of course giving you faster cooldowns. So first question, why do we not build Maul Reminder? Well, basically, it's because if you go for not Maul Reminder, why do we not go for LDR, the Lord Dominic's Regard? So if we go for LDR here, our last item option is basically going to be exceeding the crit cap to 125%, which is kind of a waste of gold, or going for something like a GA, and I don't really like that, so I like going for Maul Reminder so that we can get another crit item later on. So next question is, why do we go for Navori Quick Blades as our last item? Well, basically, I've tested some other items as our last item. Now, I tried Black Cleaver as the last item, which, in case you guys didn't know, instantly stacks in one auto attack. But Black Cleaver kind of sucks as a late game item. It's really like a first item kind of thing, which we'll talk more about when I do a supplementary guide about the on-hit build for Zeri. Now, something like a Wit's End is viable as a last item if you're into heavy AP. as well. And the one I tested the most is Phantom Dancer. So Phantom Dancer gives you, of course, crit. The attack speed doesn't really matter because it's basically going to be converted into AD. Gives you the movement speed, which is of course what you like, and it gives you that lifeline shield that gives you the shield when you drop below 35% health. Now at first I thought this would be the best option for Zeri, but when you really think about it, the attack speed is kind of useless. You might as well get AD from Quick Blades. Of course the crit is the same on both of them. Movement speed is nice, but it's just 5%, not the biggest in the world. And the lifeline is what I thought would make her really, really good. Make the item really, really good. But the issue with the lifeline is it has a cooldown, so it's only going to trigger every once in a while. Whereas something like Navori Quick Blades doesn't have a cooldown. As a matter of fact, it reduces all your cooldowns, so gives you more ability haste, and of course gives you the passive where your crits lower all of your remaining cooldowns. Now this doesn't matter for your Q and it doesn't matter for your W, but really where this matters is your E. Now you would think that building the very quick blades just for one item doesn't really make sense. Yeah, but like what other better item options do you have? You don't really have other item options. You're not gonna build Stormrazor last. It doesn't make sense. Essence Reaver doesn't really work on Zeri. It doesn't make sense either. And like what else can you build? Like Static Shiv and like Rapid Fire doesn't make sense either. So really your best option, just because there's nothing better, is Navori Quick Blades for getting your E off of cooldown faster, which allows you to, you know, get more mobility to dash around and dodge skill shots or to chase down enemies. It simply is just the best option here. Now the next question is, why don't we build Stormrazor? So basically, in my opinion, if you want to build Stormrazor, it has to be a first item. Stormrazor falls off. So it's going to fall off in the late game. Doesn't make sense as a second, third, or fourth, or fifth item. It only makes sense as a first item. So the main reason I feel that Stormrazor does not make sense as a first item is actually two reasons. The first reason is Zeri sucks on one item. It doesn't matter if you have Stormrazor or you have IE, Zeri still is gonna suck at one item. So of course Stormrazor is better than IE as a first item, but what are you giving up? So Zeri's core build is to have IE for increased damage, Runans for the splash because you can't attack people behind your main target without it, and Bloodthirster for the sustain. Getting a Stormrazor means that you have to push your Bloodthirster to after your Maul Reminder, or either that or you have to get Maul Reminder as a last item, which kind of sucks either way. So this delays your 3-item core. So getting Stormrazor, in my opinion, doesn't really make sense very much. And additionally, the Stormrazor auto is very easily blocked by someone in the front line, and you can't really proc it onto someone in the back line, which is not a problem for other champions. So overall, because of these reasons, I think Stormrazor is not the best item on Zeri, so that's why I choose to go for this build. And now we're going to talk about the runes and the spells. So for the runes, for this particular build at least, I'm taking Lethal Tempo because this is the main way you get your attack speed, especially in the early game before you get your Runan's Hurricane. Even after you get the Runan's Hurricane, this, you know, gets you to maximum attack speed and converts to your additional AD as well, so this is still really, really good. Of course, we get Hunter Vampirism for the Vamp because Zeri is kind of all about the Vamp, and pretty much your other options are just not as good. Here we go for Bone Plating because Bone Plating is really, really overpowered at the moment. Blocks that first spell that's launched at you, kind of counters a lot of champions like Karma's Q, for example, Zig's Bomb, for example. Of course, you can get Hunter Titan or Nullifying Orb if you so prefer. Now, we go for Hunter Genius even though we have Navori Quick Blades. Reason being is Navori Quick Blades is the last item that we rarely reach anyways, so having that ability haste and faster cooldowns in the earlier stages of the game is really helpful. Now, if you don't want Hunter Genius, you can take Nimbus Cloak. And now we're going to talk about the spells. And the spells actually does have some debate here, unlike normal where I just say it's obviously Flash and Exhaust. So your first option is of course Flash and Exhaust. Now, the other option you have is actually Flash and Ghost. So, I'm going to lay out the pros and cons for both of them. Now, the pros of Exhaust is, in lane, if you get into a 2v2 fight, and the other ADC has Exhaust, you and the other ADC can trade Exhaust, so no one is put at a disadvantage. Without Exhaust, you will be at a significant disadvantage, either in lane 2v2, or in the later stages of the game when you have a 1v1, like especially against the other ADC. Like, for example, when your support, when both supports rotate for Herald, it's a 1v1 against with the two ADCs. If you don't have exhaust, you're never gonna win that 1v1. With exhaust, you might not win it in the first place because you kind of suck early game, like during the when the supports rotate for Herald. But yeah, that's the pros and cons of exhaust. And also, of course, in the late game, like if you have like a backline diver like an assassin or a fighter who wants to dive backline, exhaust is going to help you out a lot. Now, what are the pros of Ghost? So now, Ghost basically has a faster cooldown than exhaust, but that doesn't really matter that much. The main reason why you take Ghost is, firstly, in lane, Ghost can get you out of sticky situations so you don't have to blow flash. For example, you're overextended, you see a jungler ganking, you can pop your Ghost and run away and you don't have to waste your flash. Now secondly, the main reason you take Ghost is more for late game team fights. Basically, when you ult and you Ghost together, you get insane amounts of movement speed to either chase people down or just simply kite around the fight, dodge skill shots, you know, etc. together with your insane movement speed from your ulti and just your dash from your E as well. It's just completely and utterly nutty. So that's why Ghost is a very viable spell as well. Personally, I think that it depends on the situation, like how many assassins or whatever is there on the enemy team, or how much do you need the Ghost to kite around. So it's kind of a match to match / personal preference kind of deal. But yeah, it's really up to you which one you want to take. I don't think that necessarily one is better over the other. Both have their pros and cons. But with all that out of the way, we can finally jump into a gameplay. Okay, so here we have the gameplay itself. Now this particular match comes from Legendary Ranked, as you guys can obviously see from the nameplates. In this particular match, I went for the exhaust, and the reason why I went for the exhaust is this is probably not going to be a front-to-back kind of team fight, because there's going to be a Kai'Sa and a Master you can easily get into the back line. Whereas my team doesn't really have a super solid front line. We have like Malphite and Renekton, also like kind of like a Mumu, but they're Malphite and the Mumu are more of like engaged champs than really like tanky like frontline champs, like not really like something like a Mundo, for example. But anyways, I chose to go for the exhaust this particular match, especially because of Kai'Sa and especially because of Master Yi, so I at least can exhaust them when they try to, you know, dive me in the background. So anyways, here we have, of course, the lane, and we all know that, or rather we don't know, that's the whole point of this complete guide, but Zeri is really bad in lane because, number one, her auto attacks can be blocked by minions. Of course, if Senna does something like that where she doesn't stand in front of minions, that's great for me because I can actually hit her. But generally, number one, you get blocked by the minions. Number two, you have really low like base AD and base stats, so you can get very easily. You will basically get out damaged by almost anybody. So you really need your support to carry your lane. Now, of course, your best combo is with Lulu or Yuumi. Here I have a Malphite who is not even an enchanter, which is kind of not the best combo, but you can't really choose your support. Here Senna plays really over aggressive, and just because you do very little damage does not mean that you shouldn't attack. Like if they're attacking you, you should attack back. You know, you have to trade health with them as well. Here Amumu's coming in, but the enemy is already on the retreat, so nothing much is really happening. Me and Malphite are taking quite a significant chunk of damage, and as you can see, we're kind of getting out-traded, which is not really a very big surprise because Zeri doesn't really do a lot in the early game. Malphite can only really poke with his Q, which is exactly what he is doing. Here I'm trying to just get some damage down. Here I'm actually doing a pretty good job of getting a little bit of free auto attacks in onto Senna and Kai'Sa actually, and they're all actually pretty low. Malphite actually has Ignite, so there is some kill potential here. I'm also pretty healthy, so just a little bit of chunking has actually put this lane into a pretty good position for the two of us. Now here we're just trying to clear the minion wave. Here you can see Malphite just flashes in, ignites, and just instantly kills the Kai'Sa. I did not even get an assist there because I was not even ready, and I wasn't in range to do anything to the Kai'Sa to even pick up the assist. So Malphite gets himself like pretty much a solo kill right there. And here we're just picking up the minion wave, and of course we're just destroying the enemy control ward, which is pretty standard that it's there now. Malphite places a ward in its place, and here we're gonna just back, and we're gonna just pick up our BF sword and our glove. Of course, as we're following the build that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. And yeah, so just a small little disclaimer, I guess you could say. This match, I think, is a really good example of how to play Zeri well. Like, I do a lot of things I should be doing. Like, for example, here, I'm playing safe, not playing over-aggressive, but at the same time, I'm not letting enemy team get traits for free, and I am retaliating, and I generally play the fights pretty well. Yeah, here you can see Malphite goes in, I go in as well with the ulti. We trade exhaust for exhaust, and here, I am doing pretty significant damage to Kai'Sa. Here, I can see Malphite tanks a tower shot and I take advantage of that to get damage onto Kai'Sa. Here we trade flash for flash, but I can dash forward to finish off the kill. So getting a 2v2 clean kill there, me and the Malphite. Really nice engage by the Malphite. But yeah, back to my point, I am playing this match pretty well, but the issue with Zeri is that she really doesn't do meaningful damage until you reach like 2 items, and she really comes online only when you reach 3 items. So at the end of the day, my damage in this match isn't really very good because you have to get to like mid to late game for Zeri to really come online. And in this game, as you guys can see from the remaining length of this video, this match was only about 14 minutes. So Zeri has not really come online yet at all. If the match lasted in maybe another like 5 more minutes or so, I think my damage would kind of almost like double, because that's really where you start doing an insane amount of damage, especially because I got really fed this particular match. But anyways, complete guys, it's not really about getting fed and just destroying the enemy team. It's about explaining how you can play against the enemy. You guys can see there we got some poke in using that W through the wall. Here Malphite just goes straight on in and I managed to finish the kill. Master Yi comes on in, and here I ult him just for that burst of damage, and we also pick up a kill on Master Yi. Now I'm 4-0, doing pretty well. I'm just going to pick up the minion wave here. Dragon is coming up in a couple of seconds, but here I want to get some tower damage if possible. Here I'm just getting like 2 shots on the tower. Here I can zip across the wall to the dragon pit. And as I mentioned in like the skills section of the video, sometimes you don't manage to dash all the way through the wall. Thankfully over there, it doesn't really matter all that much because it's not critical. Here Malphite gets hit by the root, and here Master Yi comes on in. Here I'm getting hit by basically everything. I exhaust the Kai'Sa, Kai'Sa exhausts me as well. Here I try to pick up the fruit to survive, but unfortunately we do not survive. Here Master Yi is on the chase for the Ziggs. Now Ziggs actually plays this really well. He creates distance using his W here. He flashes to create more distance, and then he kites the Master Yi back around the tower and his bombs as well. Here he almost gets the kill on Galio without dying, but unfortunately Galio got into melee range and they managed to trade. Overall though, really well played by the Ziggs. Don't think you can ask for too much more in that scenario. Here Malphite has ult. He definitely wants to go in just based on his behavior. He flash ults in. Obviously I'm not in range. I zip across the wall to get into range, and here I use my W to finish off the kill onto the Kai'Sa. And here look at what we do here to the Senna. Senna underestimates how much damage we do. Like, yes, Zeri does really low damage in the early game, but it's still not negligible. We also got really lucky there because we crit her twice with not too much crit chance. I think we have like what, 25 from the IE and 20% from the cloak, so 45% crit chance. Yeah, almost 50%, not too bad. Yeah, we crit her twice there with the bonus damage from the IE as well. Here we finally get ourselves the Ruinous Hurricane, so 2 items now. We're gonna start to be a little bit more useful, but still not really fully online yet. Like, that's the weakness of Zeri. She kind of needs to get to 3 items to be really useful, which kind of sucks. So here we're just gonna hop over the wall just to get to lane faster. We want to try to prevent Kai'Sa from getting this tower. She does get the plates though, but at least she does not get the tower. So here Kai'Sa, we can see her rotating to mid lane. So what I'm trying to do here is I just want to clear up this wave using the W through the wall to help out with that wave clear. Just clear this wave, and then I'm going to rotate to mid to help out my team, or maybe fall back into the jungle just to farm up some camps. So here I'm just going to hop over this wall to go to mid lane faster. Going to pop that to see if anyone's in the bush. No one really is. I thought Senna was going to continue walking down, but she ended up turning back around, so it doesn't really matter over there. Here, the Galio and Senna are just in the mid lane. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm just going to simply clear out the minion wave, and that's pretty much it. And now here, basically nothing is really happening. Here we catch out Senna, and yeah, we just get a free pick basically, and nothing much is really happening here, because we don't really have the power to siege this mid lane tower, and Amumu and Renekton are kind of recalling, and really nothing's gonna happen here. Just basically enemy team is standing under the tower, getting poked by Ziggs, and nothing is really happening here. So it's kind of just a colossal waste of time. So I'm just gonna recall and just get myself items, and just continue on. So here I get the Boots of Fury with the QSS. A lot of things to QSS this match. We have the Singe Flip, the Singe Slow, Galio, Taunt, Galio's Justice Punch. We have like Senna's Root. Yeah, so a lot of things to QSS here. Generally, you want to take QSS if there's multiple form of CCs that you can use it against, which is exactly what I do here in this scenario. And here again, I recognize that going mid lane is just a waste of time, so instead I'm just going to go over to the bot lane and pick up this wave, like so. And then I'm just going to fall back to the jungle and just farm the Crux. Now there's a fight happening at the top lane, but at this point, I'm at the opposite side of the map. I'm not going to make it up to top lane anyways. There's no real point of me rotating there when the fight, you know, is pretty much going to be over. Like you guys can see here, they're not fighting anymore. So if I had actually made my way there, wouldn't actually have mattered. Instead, I'm just going to go farm the mid lane. Ziggs actually makes it back to mid lane and he ends up taking the farm instead. But here we're going to see if we can get some damage onto the mid lane tower. Again, it's sort of that dance where we're trying to get some mid lane tower damage, but nothing is really happening here. I'm just going to pick up some fruit just for the mana. And here, again, nothing is happening, so we're just going to go ahead and farm the chickens. For some reason, there's only the big chicken left every single time. I'm not quite sure why or who is taking the chickens, but only the big one is left. So here, look at this. We see Kaisa actually taking the skull. So here, me and Amumu actually walking by the area before the skull vision goes down. So she thinks that she's safe here. She clearly sees me on the control ward, and she is running for her life. She's running the wrong direction though. We again trade exhaust for exhaust. She flashes, so we trade flash for flash, and I ult her. And basically me and Kaisa traded exhaust for exhaust, flash for flash, and ult for ult right there. But killing Kaisa before the dragon is completely worth. And because of that, the enemy team is not going to contest the dragon. Also because Master Yi and Singed are on the top side of the map. So here, it's pretty worth in my opinion that what we did there. And here me and Amumu can easily just take down the dragon. I'm going to recall. And meanwhile, there's a fight happening at the top lane. Basically, the rest of both teams are at the top lane. Here, getting the components of my Bloodthirster, getting that much closer to getting my Power Spike. Now here, honestly, the fight is kind of over at this point. I'm not gonna reach the fight. It's quite clear the enemy team is like running away, so I'm not gonna ever reach that fight. So instead, I'm gonna go over here and help Amumu with Rift Herald. But even so, he doesn't really look like he needs help anyways. So here, again, the fight at top lane is really pointless. The enemy team is already under tower. Nothing much we can really do to them unless we want a tower dive. So instead, I'm just going to pick up the mid lane tower. And here, Amumu is actually using the Herald to get the charge on mid lane tier 2. Now, I don't really think that was necessary because it's really difficult to get this tower. We can only do just a little bit of damage to the tower. And I'm just gonna hop over here, taking an extra second to make sure I, land in the correct spot, not inside the raptor pit or something like that. That would kind of be disastrous. Okay, so here I'm trying to ping assist on the red buff because I want Amumu to come over and help me take the red buff so that he can get the buff as well. So Amumu's recalling. I'm pinging that I'm on the red buff. Here Amumu's pinging he's on the way as well. Unfortunately though, my team kind of gets into a fight here. As me and Amumu are busy collecting the buff, Amumu smites the buff for me to take. And here, thankfully, our team pretty much basically wins the fight without us. So here I hop over and out because I was thinking it's going to be a huge fight, but it pretty much ends up not being a huge fight anyways. So I kind of wasted my ult there, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. It's still fine. Here we're just going to clear up the minion wave. And nearly got the catch on Senna there, did Renekton. So anyways, nothing much happening, nothing to even farm in the enemy jungle. No minion waves to push, nothing like that. So we're just gonna back and we pick up the Bloodthirster. So now, here we have hit our 3 item power spike. Now we're 9-1-0. This is where we're gonna do incredible amounts of damage. However, as I mentioned, the match only lasts 14 minutes and we're at 12:30 now. So you can see that there really isn't time for us to do damage. Here Ziggs gets caught. I hop over to exhaust the Singe to try to help out the Ziggs. Now honestly here, if I wanted to, I could have QSS the Singe slow and continued chasing him and probably killed him. But looking at his KDA, he's like 2-7. at the moment. He's not worth a lot of gold anyways, and it's really risky to chase him down because we don't really know where his team is. They could easily rotate and kill me, and I'm 9-1. I'm way more valuable than he is, so it really doesn't make sense to chase him down at this point because it's not worth the risk basically. So here I'm just gonna clear out this huge minion wave. Didn't manage to defend the tower, but not too much we can do here. So here we're actually going back to get the Executioner's Calling. And the reason we're doing that is, of course, because there's a lot of healing on enemy team, like Master Yi healing, Kaisa healing, Senna healing, and enemy team in the meantime picks up a Baron. But here, look at this, our whole team is going in for the fight. I hop right into the middle, ult everybody, get the kill on Singed. Here Amumu gets a 4-man ultimate on the entire enemy team. I flash forward to get the kill, actually don't get the kill, but I flash forward to do damage to the Galio, and the enemy team gets Baron, but we ace them, so basically that's as good as having no Baron. And at this point in time, with the whole enemy team dead and with a wave in the mid lane, we can proceed to basically just end the game. In the meantime though, just gonna pick up enemy wolves just in case we don't actually end the game, so denying enemy farm is what you always want to do. Ziggs bombs the tower, and here we basically just end the game. So here, there we have it for our Zeri complete guide. Hopefully you guys learned from the complete guide. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. So I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.